Okay.
Is that better?
Hi, everybody. My name is Eoin O'Brien. I work for the Institute of Technology, Carlow.
Oh, excellent.
Thanks for everybody doing a bit of introductions there. I'm going to assume at this stage that you can all hear me okay. I'm just going to give you a brief background as to who I am and why I'm on here, and then I'm going to introduce Tanya to you. So, as I mentioned, my name is Eoin. I'm the International Coordinator for the Institute of Technology, Carlow. I've been looking after Canada for the last 3.5 years, so I've got to know a lot of colleges over there, and I've been very fortunate in my time there that just in the region of about 100 Canadian students have come to study with us since I came to Carlow. On a personal level, I thoroughly enjoy dealing with the Canadian students. I suppose we don't have the same kind of barriers that may exist in terms of language and culturally. So I think it makes for a much easier process in terms of getting to know the students. I'm delighted to be joined today by Tanya Foster. Tanya did her advanced diploma in HRM in Durham College and is currently studying with us in HRM. She's completing her degree at the moment, and I'm delighted to have her online. The great thing about having Tanya here is this time last year she was one of you guys. She was logging in with the Canadian flag beside her, and now it's funny to see her with the Irish flag beside her. So Tanya, you might just explain a little bit about yourself, why you came to Carlow, what your experience is like, and you might also share with everybody the bit of news that you had last week as well, which they might be of interest to some of the people.
So yes, so as Owen explained, I came from Durham College. I studied for 3 years and then completed an advanced diploma at Durham College. I decided to come to Ireland because I really wanted that international student experience. And Ireland, as Owen will explain later, has a really great way for you to get here easily without a visa and at a reasonable cost. Another reason why I wanted to come to Ireland is because the culture is similar, because the language is the same, and because I just always wanted to be somewhere in Europe where it was easy enough for me to travel and to be able to kind of explore more of Ireland. So next week or last week, I learned that I also got a position in the Students' Union. I'm going to be your VP for Quality and Welfare next year, which I'm really excited about, and just further indicates that I'm loving it here so far, and I want to continue to be part of the IT Carlow community.
Yeah, so I'll just back up a little bit about what Tanya just said. It's great for us to have a Canadian student, an international student on the student union body, and I think the great thing too is it demonstrates how much certainly Tanya's enjoyed her experience. So I'll also just explain a little bit for those of you who may not be familiar. We've been working with KOM for the last 3 years, 4 years in the Canadian market. They are essentially an extension of our international office. Their service to you guys is completely and entirely free. And with Sue and Amelia in the background, Adam and Martin, it gives us a lot of comfort to know that we have a dedicated resource in the market and somebody who can help people. And then the second thing is, I suppose it gives you guys a bit of reassurance about answering the questions and queries that you may not be comfortable asking us. So I have a PowerPoint deck that I'm going to walk through bit by bit. But I think this session will work best if you throw questions at me. And what I would say about questions is there's no such thing as a stupid one. And the great thing about having Tanya on here is I can only talk about Carlow from my perspective, but she can give you an insight into Carlow from a student perspective, from a Canadian perspective. So that's one of the great reasons. That's one of the reasons why I have her asked her to participate, and I'm delighted that she helped me out with it. So Alki, who I spoke with yesterday on the phone, she just has a question about cost of living comparison between Carlow and well, Southern Ontario. So Alki, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but Alki's down in Niagara College. So Tanya, any thoughts?
So in terms of answering that question, I find personally the cost of living similar. Now, you will see, so like grocery wise, you're paying between 25 and 35 euro a week to eat decently. So that's like meat, veggies, like whatever kind of decent meals that you want to make for yourself. And that might sound less than what you would pay in Canada. I used to pay 40 to $60 Canadian a week for my groceries. But in reality, with the exchange rates being the way they are, it adds up to be about the same. It's the same with the living in terms of the rent and stuff. Like you'll see the cost in euros will be lower, but it's about similar. However, one thing that you do have to consider is that even though your living costs are going to be similar for a year, it's only 1 year instead of 2 years. So in the end, it actually works out to be cheaper for you.
Okay, guys. So the way I put together this this presentation is I kind of start broad and I go narrow. But for those of you who maybe are contemplating it's very intimidating to take that opportunity to study abroad. And some of the reasons why you should think about studying abroad is, well, the first thing I put down there is it enhances employment opportunities. There's only about 3% of Canadian students, to the best, according to the statistics I've reviewed, take the opportunity to study abroad. And whether you decide to stay in Ireland or go elsewhere, or if you decide to go back to Canada, one of the things that would differentiate you in an interview process is the fact that you've studied abroad. So we had a Canadian student from St. Clair College called Melanie Daniel. Melanie got a job at the Toronto Blue Jays, for any of you who have an interest in baseball. And she studied sport management and coaching with us. During her interview process with the Toronto Blue Jays, it was quite rigorous. She went through 16 rounds of interviews, and in each interview, they would have touched on her experience abroad. So that maybe gives you an example of how much of a value employers can place on the study abroad experience. By virtue of the fact that you're coming to study abroad, you will merely by process of osmosis acquire these kind of soft skills, intercultural awareness, self-confidence, time management, all those kind of things. And they're the kind of things you don't really learn in a classroom, but they're critical skills for life, both professionally and academically and personally. So there's that experience too that I can bring to you as well. By being abroad and studying for your degree at the same time, you're getting an opportunity to, but certainly that study abroad opportunity, because outside of the classroom, there's a whole host of experiences that take place. So, for example, Tanya would have spent most of the weekend up in Dublin celebrating St. Patrick's Day, for example. A lot of people just take the opportunity to visit different parts of Ireland. And what I would say generally about a lot of the Canadian students, provided you can afford it, it's such an amazing opportunity to see different parts of Europe. London, Paris, Amsterdam, Berlin, Rome, Barcelona, all these great European cities are within generally 1, 2, 3 hours distance. And we have an airline over here called Ryanair. For much less than the cost of a Via Rail ticket, you can be in any of these cities. So it's a great opportunity. I know Tanya's been to London already. She plans to go to Greece, and she's traveled an awful lot around Ireland. But even outside of Tanya, there's great opportunities. Study abroad expands your worldview. You know, I spend a lot of time in Canada. My brother's been living there for nearly 30 years. But being in another culture, being exposed to people from who've grown up in a different environment, different way of viewing the world, having access to their world and their worldview is a critical thing for you, because many of you might end up working in multinationals. So it's important that you understand how people in other countries understand. In the same way, our students need to understand how Canadians think and other international students think. Um, so, Tanya, you might touch a little bit about what the study abroad experience has done for you.
Yeah, so just in terms of the study abroad experience, I can definitely say I've grown a lot as an individual. I've learned to be more independent. No longer am I able to get my parents to pack me up a week's worth of chicken to bring to college with me or whatever. You kind of have to do it on your own, and so you really get a lot of like life experience of it. Just to kind of go back to what Owen was saying about the traveling part, Carlow can get really quiet on the weekends, and I've taken the opportunity to be able to use that time to go to Galway, to go to Cork, to go up north and see Belfast, and to go to the Ring of Kerry and stuff like that. So definitely, it's allowed me to travel. It's allowed me to explore more, and also just meeting other Irish students, interacting with people from different countries. It's kind of expands your network, and it really gives you the skill of being able to work with other people from different cultures, from different perspectives and upbringings. And so, yeah, I basically learned a lot over here, and I definitely would recommend it to you all.
Okay. Jordan, you just have a question there about, do you need a re-entry visa every time you leave Ireland? For any of you who joined who are Canadian citizens, and I'm going by the Canadian flags beside your name, which isn't necessarily indicative of your nationality. But if you're a Canadian citizen, the great news is, a bit like the Irish passport, it makes it much easier to travel. So if you're a Canadian passport holder, you do not need a re-entry visa. You do not need a visa to come to Ireland, and I'll come to that. Nathan, you've asked a question about the one-year work visa. I'll come to that, but to answer your question, you're absolutely right. As soon as you complete your degree, from the date you get your results, the Irish government give you a stamp 1G on your IRP card, which entitles you to a one-year stay back. At the end of that one-year stay back, if your employer wants to sponsor you for a work permit, you can stay on indefinitely if you so wish to. So why study in Ireland? So the quality of our education system is one of the best in the world. There's a number of different think tanks out there that measure different levels of education in the world. So the one I've used here is the Legatum Prosperity Index, which has ranked the Irish education 6th out of 149 countries. And one of the key aspects of that was looking at employability. So ensuring that the graduates who are coming out of the higher education system have the skills and competencies to do well professionally. And so that's a big reason why Ireland features so highly. The Irish government invested billions in our infrastructure as well. So the quality assurance that underpins our system is very, very high. And a key part of, I suppose, my remit is to encourage international students to come to Ireland to partake in that system. We're quite lucky with Canada and more specifically Ontario and Alberta and to a lesser extent as well with Quebec. We have a proposition in the market which means, unlike the universities over there, we're able to give you like-for-like credit transfer, which means you can complete your degree quicker. And that's the key selling point for many students when they're thinking about coming here. The fact that you can complete your degree quickly, but the quality is also there. Okay, we're friendly. I think the Lonely Planet Guides voted Irish people the friendliest nation in the world a couple of years ago. I would argue that Canadians are probably more friendly, but in general, most Irish people are quite friendly. We're not all friendly. There's a couple of narky people knocking around the place. But in general, we're quite friendly, aren't we, Tanya? Safe. The World Peace Index is a body which measures crime levels around the world. So Ireland has been voted the 10th safest country in the world. As we unfortunately witnessed a few not so long ago in New Zealand, it's very difficult to guarantee safety in most countries, but in general, it's a very safe country, and provided you're taking the proper precautions, it's a very, very, very safe country. And I'm somebody with young kids. I'd be nervous about sending my kids to study abroad. And one of the things that can reassure you are the statistics, and the statistics say that we are one of the safest countries in the world. Big, massive key selling point for us is we're English speaking, as you can tell. This means you do not have to overcome a language barrier that you may have to overcome in many other countries. So in terms of adapting and getting used to our education system, that barrier isn't as high as I see it is for other students whose first language isn't English. So that's a key consideration. There's a European digital education marketing agency called Study Portals, and they've done this international student barometer measuring international student satisfaction. And Ireland has one of the highest ratings in Europe, second behind Norway, of 91% student satisfaction rate. So again, further evidence of our ability to look after and mind international students. Employment opportunities. We went through a very deep recession back in 2008, like a lot of the world. We have rebounded very, very strongly. Our economy is reaching full employment very, very rapidly. And with the Irish government giving a 1-year stay back for honours degree students, there are plenty of job opportunities out there. Doesn't mean you're entitled to it, but we are one of the few countries that gives graduates opportunities to stay behind. So in the case of Tanya, she's obviously staying behind to take up her role. But I have had a number of Canadian students stay behind to take up roles in Ireland. And cost of living. I mean, relative to places like urban areas in the UK, in America, Australia, the cost of living in Ireland, relatively speaking, is at the lower end of the spectrum. It's still going to be an expensive experience, but relatively speaking, it's not as expensive. A few questions have come in while I've been talking, so I'm just going to quickly look at them. So Michelle Bracken, are there going to be any issues with this because of UK's exit from the EU? No, if anything, we're benefiting from the UK leaving the EU. There was a report by the government yesterday showing that 5,000 jobs have come to Ireland since the UK announced they're leaving Brexit, leaving the EU. So we're actually doing really well out of it. And when it actually does come to pass, I would imagine common sense is going to prevail. Ireland and the UK have an agreement anyway, so it's going to be easy to travel between the UK and Ireland. It's going to be less easy for you to travel from the UK to other parts of Europe. But for us, Brexit isn't going to be a problem at all for any of you. Is there any possibility of taking online courses as well as traditional on classes? Lawrence Ridgew has asked that. Lawrence, we don't really have. You can take some online classes, but in general, most of our teaching is through the traditional means of the actual physical classroom. So there won't be much scope for online classrooms. Kristen, you've a 3-year child and youth care diploma. Yeah, so you can complete in 9 months. So we have an early childhood education degree, which is 3 years in duration, and provided that your intention is to come and get a degree, there is new professional accreditation coming in. So what I might do, Kristen, is I might come back to you on that one, and we might set up a call for me to have a chat tomorrow on the phone, or I'll just run through some things with you. But to answer your question, yes, you can. So Kaylin McGregor, Kaylin, you're asking, are we able to transfer our course over to Carlow to complete our course, or would we start fresh? In general, once you've completed your qualification in Canada, that's what we're looking at. So essentially, you will be starting fresh, but at a higher level. So that shouldn't be a problem. Sissy is asking a question about job opportunities. I spoke to Tanya about this earlier on. You are allowed to work 20 hours per week during the college year, and 40 hours when you're not in college. And you are entitled to a minimum wage of €9.80. But job opportunities, some of the Canadian students are working, some are not. But Tanya's in fourth year of a final year degree. Tanya, you might just explain a little bit about what your thoughts were on that.
So yeah, just to go on with that, I definitely feel like in fourth year, if you're coming in, I would not recommend finding a job. I'd recommend having enough money that you can come over here and live like decently on, and not have to worry about finding employment. Just because there's a lot of assignments that you'll have and a lot of things, especially in like the February, March, and April region where you're going to be really busy, finishing CAs, finishing exams. I wouldn't recommend working, even though it is an option. So like if you did need that 10 or 15 hours a week, just saying to your employer like, hey, I'm here to study, but I'd like 10 to 15 hours a week. But if you're in year 4 and you can do it without getting a job, I would recommend that.
Okay. So it is possible, CC, but just that is advice worth taking on board. Ultimately, if you're coming to get your education. But if, as Tanya says, and it's advice I would always give the students, try and have enough money that you don't need to work. And if you get a job, it's a bonus. Okay. Alki is asking a question about how many courses would you suggest for the first term? Carlow's not semesterized, so the way we operate is you will have to, in your case, Alki, you'll be going into year 4 of the international business degree, and you will be completing 60 credits, and all of those will be completed over the 2 semesters. So I'd have to look at the specifics of it, but essentially you will be doing 60 credits, and I think that's comprised of six subjects. Jordan, the school year ends around the middle, about the 21st of May, thereabouts. Abigail is asking, is there a certain amount of Canadian students that you accept per year? No, we don't have a cap. We do have a government target to meet, which is about 15% of our student population. When I started 3 years ago, we had 5 students. That's ramped up to 48 the second year. And this year we have about 28. The numbers declined this year because of the strike that took place last year. At least that's what I hope it was. The vast majority of Canadian students who come have a great time, but there's no real cap on numbers. There are certain programs which are based in the lab, so I see a couple of students are here for biotechnology, where we might have restrictions when it comes to lab space. But we very rarely come up into coming to issues. So no problem at all, Kristen. We'll set up a call. If you drop me an email, I'll give you my contact details later on. So what I put up here is a map of Ireland. So Ireland is often compared to a little teddy bear, if you can see that shape. And Carlow's not too far away from the belly button, as you can see. So for most of you guys who might be traveling in from Toronto, I don't know if we have anybody from Alberta joining us, but our national airline has announced direct flights from Alberta this year as well, and I think there are direct flights as well from Quebec as well. So you would all fly into Dublin Airport. It's about a 5-hour flight over with the tailwinds. It's about a 6.5-hour flight back because you're flying against the winds. So outside of America, we're your closest English-speaking neighbours. When you arrive in Dublin, included in your fees is a free airport taxi. Okay, so we pick you up at the airport. So when you arrive for the first time with your suitcase, your bags, you've arrived in a strange country. It's a bit nerve-wracking. At least you don't have the hassle of having to look for a bus or anything like that. There'll be somebody in arrivals with a sign looking for you. Tanya, you might want to comment on that. Was that a nice service?
Yeah, I definitely think that was a really nice thing to have. I had a really friendly taxi driver, and I think it's really helpful, especially because you're going to be bringing over some suitcases, like you're moving over realistically. So having someone there to pick you up, you know they're waiting there for you. When I came over, I actually had to book my taxi. I think it was 2 weeks before I decided to come over. So I just filled in a form on the international website just with my flight number and like the time that I'm going to arrive, and then someone was waiting there with like a Carlow Cabs IT Carlow sign, and I just met up and they pretty much brought me home.
Yeah. So now one of the benefits, Carlow's about 90 kilometres south of Dublin, okay? But because we're not in the capital city, the cost of living can be up to 50% less than what you'd pay. So it might be the difference between, say, living in Toronto downtown versus maybe somewhere like Peterborough or Oshawa or Kingston or something like that. So that's one of the benefits of Carlow. Now, as Tanya rightly said, there's trade-offs that you make. Dublin is obviously a city. There's a bit more going on, but you know you're going to pay 4,000 or 5,000 more to live there potentially in terms of accommodation, transportation, etc. So that's one of the benefits. So I would generally say to people, Carlow's got a good central location, as you can see. There's good transportation links. It's nowhere near as expensive as Via Rail to get around the country. With your student card, you're entitled to student discounts. So by all means, take advantage of the fact that it's a low-cost destination. Alec is just asking a question about how long is the Christmas break. It's generally 3 weeks. So booking your flights in advance is always a good thing. Just make sure that you don't book your flights too early, as I've had with one Canadian student. He booked his flights to go home at the start of December, and you know, he missed his exam, so he had to come back and sit it in August. So don't do that. Generally, you know, you can get home early. So so Nathan, I think we've touched on that question. We've an airport pickup for you. Adewaluk, sorry, if I'm pronouncing, I'm butchering your name, at Architectural Technology. Tiwa, thank you. Basically, our degree is Architectural Technology, and you're coming into the final year of that. It's 9 months duration, and it is badged by 2 professional bodies. But to the best of my knowledge, the RAIC is an architect's a professional architect's body. To go down that route, it's a bit of a longer route, and I think one of KOM's partner schools, Sligo, might be a better alternative if you're going down that route. But what we can offer you is entry into the final year of an honours degree in Architectural Technology, which is badged by 2 professional bodies. Now, I don't have the 2 bodies to hand, but again, if you want to drop me an email tomorrow, I can send you that information. Myself and Tanya were putting together these slides earlier on, and we had a video to show you, but unfortunately the video is not going to play on this. It's about a 90-second clip of just giving you a sense of the diversity of the student population. We have students from over 80 nationalities, and talking about the different things that they like about Carlow. But what I've also done with KOM this year is I've shot a number of videos. So Tanya very kindly has done a video about her experience and her course, and there's also ones for those of you guys who are here from Conestoga. One of the students from Conestoga has done hers. For anybody who's doing biotechnology, one of our environmental science students has done hers. So there's a couple of videos there. Marketing, we have a couple of marketing videos, and I'll try and get more done as well. But if you go to our YouTube channel, there's lots of good videos there to give you a good sense of the college, good sense of the experience, good sense of the facilities. So if you like looking at those kind of videos to get your sense of things, that's no problem. So just a little bit about Carlow, okay? We were founded in 1970, and probably one of the questions I get asked is, why are we called an Institute of Technology? It's a historical thing. We were set up in 1970 originally to provide technical training, so training plumbers, things like that. But over time, our role evolved, where we started providing higher education qualifications, and that process continued to happen into the 90s, where we started offering full degrees, and it's now got to the stage where we can offer master's programs and PhD programs as well. So we can offer the full gambit of qualifications to students. So when you finish your degree in Carlow, I have a couple of students who are doing their degree this year. They're contemplating doing their masters with us. So, you know, that's certainly an opportunity for you. The very exciting thing that's happening with IT Carlow at the moment is that in the next year or two, we will cease to exist as IT Carlow, and we are going to merge with Institute of Technology Waterford, or Waterford Institute of Technology, to call them by their proper name. And we will become the Technological University of the Southeast. So that'll be a very exciting development. It'll make us one of the biggest colleges in Ireland in terms of student population, but nothing really changes at the micro level. So you will still be getting a degree, just the name on it will be maybe slightly different. I know there's a couple of students that signed up there for Police Foundations, and one of the things in the Waterford stable is that they have a Criminology Program, and that's one of the programs that you guys might be able to take. So we are a university level institute. Our degrees are worth every bit as much as a degree that you would get in a college with the word university in the title, just to reassure you on that point. We've had some Canadian students, the guys from Conestoga that have tuned in. One of your graduates a couple of years ago came to Carlow, did her degree, and went back and went straight into an MBA program. So, you know, that's the kind of pathway that you can go down with Carlow. We're a government-funded organisation, so basically what that means is we're funded by the taxpayer, which means we have to do things by the book, and it also means, bar an unforeseeable event, we're a very solid foundation, solid college, so we're not going anywhere anytime soon. At the start of the year, 3 Institutes of Technology became the first TU college in Ireland. And what that's meant for us is that we've now become the second biggest Institute of Technology of the remaining 11 Institutes of Technology. Okay, maybe not the most exciting fact, but you know, we're going to brag about it a small bit. So another thing that I put in here, bit of a boring fact, but we're in the top tier for Category 1 funding, performance funding. Basically, the reason I put this in isn't to bore you to tears. It's to basically show you that the college is receiving funding from the government, all of its funding, for essentially meeting all of its key performance indicators. The reassuring thing about that is that it means we're a very well-run, well-managed institute. And again, it's just there to provide you reassurance. With 55,000 graduates, they can be found all around the world, working in every country in the world. If you look on LinkedIn, for example, you'll see the types of employers that hire our graduates. We currently have about 8,300 students, but the demographics in the Carlow region tell us that we will grow that to about 10,000 students. When we merge with Waterford, we're probably going to look at a student population of about 20,000 students, or thereabouts. Back in 2014, we got the accolade of Institute of Technology of the Year, and one of the key findings of the judges in that competition was that they were very impressed by our focus on employability and our desire to develop degrees in that area. For all of you guys tuning in, I'm fairly confident we have a degree to meet your needs. Not in every case though. So that's why we work with KOM. We kind of will serve due diligence on your application and make sure that, and this is to protect you guys, it's to make sure that you have the requisite qualification to do well when you come here. But across science, engineering, business and humanities, we have a wide range of courses. And 15% of our student population is comprised of international students. So you're going to be in a classroom with students from China, India, Malaysia, Indonesia, Canada, America. They're generally the markets that we draw on, but we have students from different parts of the world doing other programs. So I'm just going to go and answer some questions now. Tanya, have you anything to add about facts about Carlow that you may know that I don't know?
In terms of like just facts about Carlow, I know there's about a 30,000 person population, so it is a small town. And in terms of the busing, which is what you're talking about before, going from Carlow to Dublin, so everywhere inside of Carlow is quite walkable, like walking to the grocery stores, walking to the campus, walking to wherever. But if you wanted to take a bus up to Dublin, there's about 12 to 14 buses a day, depending on the day of the week, and you can go up to Dublin. It's about an hour and 15-minute bus ride, and I was just up there this weekend for Paddy's Day, and it's a pretty good option. You'd be spending about $13.30 round trip as a student, and just make sure you bring your student ID card. Other than that, like Carlow it's very lively during the week. Like on Wednesdays they'll have the student night in the nightclub downtown. On Tuesdays they'll have different things going on. And on the weekends it can get a little more quiet, but it's kind of nice because you'll get to meet a lot of locals and stuff. So yeah, in terms of my program, I'm the only Canadian in my program, so the HR program, and then there's one other student from Oman, but there's a good variety of Irish students, which I find really nice because I'm coming over here to meet Irish students and to integrate into the culture of it. So I find there's a good balance between international students and Irish students. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, thanks, Sonia. Mitchell is asking a question. Are there any bursaries or grants from Carlow that we can apply for? Unfortunately, there's not, Mitchell, but one of the good things about studying in Carlow is if you're entitled to OSAP funding and or Albertan Student Aid or I forget the name of the awarding body in Quebec, we are OSAP approved. So basically, I know there's been changes to OSAP that have been recently been made, but I think to the value of up to 10,000 Canadian dollars, which is a critical part of one of the reasons why a lot of students are picking Ireland to complete their degree. Because that OSAP does make it much, much more affordable, and because you're getting your degree generally in a quicker time frame, that's a really important thing. If you're paying privately, we're Canadian Revenue Agency approved too, so you can claim back some of your tuition. Other things that will save you money. Don't hate me for this, but I used to work for McGraw-Hill, the textbook publisher, and my eyes water when I go into the bookstores over in Canada and see the prices that you pay for books. Carlow doesn't have a bookstore, and there's no expectation, there's no book buying culture in Ireland. So in that regard, you can save yourself a lot of money. And as Tanya's touched upon, because everything's within walking distance, you're saving on transportation costs. So if you look at things holistically, if you do a cost-benefit analysis, you'll generally find that we come in quite well in terms of cost. Lawrence, you're asking a question. You're in Champlain. We have 2 students from Champlain at the moment. I complete the Bachelor of Business Marketing in 1 year because, it's a good point you raise. Okay, so basically, Lawrence is asking, a lot of students come into 4th year have to do a research project. And if you haven't done research prior to that, it can be a bit of a difficult endeavor, but not impossible. And Canadian students get the grip with it quite good. So Lawrence, I really need to have a look at your application. I don't know if you've formally applied yet or not. I don't recognize the name, but I think you would be okay without it. But that's not for me to say. I'd have to run it by the program chair, Dr. Deirdre Fleming. But you would have your own supervisor. And generally what we do in year 4 of marketing is you work with a client, a local company, on a research project for them. So as long as you've got good research skills, you're prepared to learn, that shouldn't be an insurmountable obstacle for you to overcome. But make your application. Let me have a look at your curriculum. I know I have a couple of students from Champlain that have applied, so I'll have a look at it. Spencer's asking about the GPA to be accepted. Okay, guys, here's an interesting one, okay? We put the benchmark at 2.4, okay? So it's about 65%. Now, one of the big adapting points that Canadian students have is we have a very different marking structure to you guys. So if you do ultimately end up decide coming to Carlow, brilliant. We'd love to have you. But one thing you'll have to adapt to is our marking system. It's very different to yours. And if you're a student that's used to getting 80 or 90%, that probably won't happen. So anything over 70% is a first class honours. Anything over 60%, between 60 and 70, is a second class honour, first grade. That's generally the entry point for most universities in terms of getting into a postgraduate program and into good graduate programs. That's generally where you need to be. Between 50 and 60 is decent. It's a second class honours, second grade, and many colleges will accept you for postgraduate programs with that. And then between 40 and 50 is a pass. Anything below 40 is a fail. So the biggest thing about that is just to adapt to the way we are and benchmark off your peers, not what you're used to in Canada. Okay? So a couple of other questions to you. The fees, okay. Fees, unfortunately, our college presidents decided, and it was very frustrating for us to see it, because a lot of them voted up the fees this year to 8,500. But what we've decided to do is, for those students who apply and accept their offer within 90 days, we'll apply a €500 discount. So our fees have only been increased by €500. It's only the second time in 14 years, I think, that we've increased our fees. Now what we ask the students to do, all of you guys on here, is if you want to accept, you pay a €1,000 deposit, okay? That deposit is 100% safe. If you change your mind, we will refund all of that money back to you, okay? But what it just means for us is, it means you're committing to your place, and it just makes life easier for you and for us, okay? But within 90 days, try and pay your €1,000, and that just means you're locked in. I have had a Canadian student who paid his deposit. He's run into a couple of issues. He emailed me the other day to say he needed to withdraw on legitimate grounds, and there's no problem. He'll get his refund in full. Okay, so it does happen, unfortunately. Hi, Alki, there's no problem. You can reach out to me. I know we have a couple of issues. I don't know, I can't see if Marika is online there, but I know there's a couple of queries in relation to your specific circumstances that I need to clarify. Kristen, I know you have to leave there in a couple of minutes, so just get in touch with me, get your application into KOM, and then we can take it from there. So just moving on to the next slide, guys, and I'm going to have touched on a lot of this already. So I mentioned this already, no visa. So basically what this means to you guys is it's so straightforward. The other market I deal with is India, and Indian students have to go through nearly 8 weeks of the visa process. It's very rigorous. They have to look at all their finances. With you guys, you just book your airline ticket and you come. What happens is, within 90 days of arrival, you have to go for your IRP card. And I'm going to let Tanya talk about that in a minute. But basically, your IRP card is your immigration status. You'll have a stamp 2 on that. That entitles you to work 20 hours per week, 40 hours when you're not in college. That meeting takes place in Carlow, in a local police station, with a local police officer. At that meeting, you have to have a letter from the college, which obviously they'll give you. You have to have evidence of your medical insurance. There is a welfare condition attached to that meeting as well. You must have €3,000 in an Irish bank account, or an account that you have access to. Okay, the idea behind that is to make sure that if you need money in a hurry, you have it. Okay, I had one poor student that came in to me today who's after putting himself very tight in terms of finances. That's what the €3,000 is there for. Those situations shouldn't arise. Okay. The unfortunate thing about that meeting is there is a one-off cost of about €300, about 400, 450 Canadian dollars. It's unavoidable. No matter where you decide to go, you're going to have to meet with that cost. Tanya, you might just give them an insight into the IRP card and that process, will you?
Yeah, so as Eoin said, you're going to fly over to Ireland, and when you fly over, you're going to want to have your letter from your school. Basically, The immigration officer is going to want to see that you're going to study, so you're going to register. So that means that you've paid your deposit or paid your tuition. And then within 90 days, the international office will send you an information sheet just saying that, so the officer's name is David, and he comes from Kilkenny to Carlow for a certain number of weeks to register students. So it's not just something Canadian students have to do, all international students have to do this. So he'll come for the whatever amount of weeks, as long as he's got appointments coming in. And what you do is you basically have to get a letter from the international office, like Eoin explained. So you'll complete a request form, and then the international office in 2 days will give you a letter, and then you'll make your appointment with David. David will give you a time, and you'll go into the local police station, which is about a 5-minute walk from town, so it's really close again. And then you'll go in, and it's basically just you show your passport, your letter, proof that you have medical insurance for the year, which you can get through the school. I paid €120 for the entire year of medical insurance. And then you also have to show your bank statement, like Eoin said as well. And then once you've kind of had that meeting, you'll come back in 2 weeks' time, you'll get your passport stamped, and then you'll get an Irish residence permit card. And then anytime you want to like re-enter the country, so you're going home for Christmas, for instance, you want to come back in Ireland, you just show your passport and your Irish residence permit, and then you pretty well get in without any questions asked. They might ask you if you're still studying, and in which case you'd say yep. But other than that, it's pretty easy. Like it was, again, like it was one of the probably the easiest things. Like I was a little bit like concerned what the meeting was going to be about, but I was not really asked any questions or anything. It was just like go in, just show your documents, get your photo taken, get your fingerprints, and then get your passport stamped in 2 weeks and a card. So it's pretty easy compared to like what my cousins went through to get a visa to go to France or whatever. So yeah, I hope that helps.
Very good. Okay, so there's a couple of questions here. I'll just touch on them before I move on. Cece, would I be able to apply a year after graduation? I assume you want to work for a year. Absolutely no problem at all. While my boss no longer allows us to defer students, we still do. So no problem at all. Lawrence, you've not applied yet. I still have a year to do, but no problem, Lawrence. If you can take that market research course, go for it. It'll be a big help. To the fees mentioned, is it yearly or per semester? It's yearly. So it's 8,000 for the year, and around what I would say 7,000 euros for the year cost of living. Tanya, would that be fair?
Yeah, I would say about 7 to 8,000 euro. 7 if you're kind of on the cheaper side, especially because like I'm living in Hatch, so I'm paying about 5.5 grand for the year to live in Hatch, which is right downtown. You can find cheaper places, but for me, I just wanted the convenient location, and since I wasn't looking at the place, I knew it was a safe place to go and live. And then in terms of your groceries and your like transportation and stuff like that, I'd say about 7,000 on the low side and 8,000 if you wanted to drink a few pints or go to the movies a few times or whatever the case may be. So yeah.
Cool. Tia, it depends what country you're from. So Tia was asking, non-Canadian citizens coming from Canada, what is the process required? For those guys, for those of you maybe from Conestoga, one of your classmates is coming. She's got a different passport to the rest of you. So if you're from a country where the Irish government requires a visa, you can do it from Canada, but you'll have to start the process a lot earlier, and you'll have to pay your fees in full prior to applying for your visa. That's the process, I'm afraid. So again, just showing the Canadian students how easy it can be for those guys. But yeah, it's if you let me know what country you're from, I'll inform you what the process is. And Lawrence, good man, you're taking the research module. Okay, you shouldn't run into too many difficulties. So as I mentioned earlier on, we're OSAP and CRA approved. So that makes life much easier. You can obtain, if you've done an advanced diploma, you can get your honours degree in 9 months of study. And essentially when you take out Easter break, Christmas break, it's 8 months. Isn't it, Tanya? If you're a diploma holder, you can generally leave after 1 year what we call a pass degree. It's a level below, I'll come to that in a minute, a level below the honours degree, or with the option to do a second year. So that's another option. There's lots of choices in terms of the courses that you can do, whether it's science, engineering, business, humanities. There's no problem. There's plenty of courses there that you can do. The tuition, as I mentioned, I have it down there as 8,500, but realistically it's €8,000. We do apply the €500 discount. For those of you applying for the honours degree, you're allowed to work for 1 year afterwards. That's an automatic entitlement. For those of you doing a master's degree, there's a 2-year entitlement. For those of you who do a pass degree at level 7, unfortunately there's no work entitlement, okay? But it's still an option there for you, okay? You are legally allowed to work 20 hours per week, 40 hours when you're not in college, and there is a 93% employment rate of our graduates, rising to 96%. I would say for Canadian students, it's probably higher. A lot of them go back home and they have no difficulty picking up employment. So Mitchell is asking about, do you find your own place to live or is there student housing? So there's 3 privately owned student villages. 2 are directly beside the college, Arananga and Carlow 1. I generally don't recommend that to the Canadian students. Some of them stay there, but I don't recommend it because you're sharing quarters and you could be in with first years. And the feedback I've had from some of the Canadian students that live there is that they can be a bit immature, a bit messy. I'm generalizing, of course, but you know, the feedback is it's more suitable for a first year than a fourth year or third year student. Many Canadian students live in houses and apartments around the college. So if you go into the accommodation section of our website, there's lots of links there in terms of websites where you can find accommodation. There's also a Facebook page set up by the Students' Union, Student House Share, which is essentially a marketplace for students who have properties or available rooms and students looking for rooms. So that's a good place to find properties. Tanya herself is living in Hatch, which is about 10 minutes walk from the college. Now, she did inform me today that they're putting up their cost this year, which obviously we didn't like to hear, but Tanya might tell you a little bit about her experience living there, and she's also done a video which she can share with students who are interested about what the facilities are like there, if you want to talk a little bit about it, Tanya.
So Hatch, I'm living in Hatch. It's about a 10 to 15 minute walk from the college. But what I like about it is it's like right in town, so I don't really have to go too far to pick up groceries or to pick up whatever. I've got my own bedroom and my own bathroom, so I'm in a deluxe ensuite, so I've got a double bed with the bathroom, and then I've got one other roommate. Hatch also has like 3 and 4 bedroom apartments as well, and they have a different pricing tier based on the like the number of rooms that are in there or the type that you get. I would recommend it. I'd recommend to anyone who's looking at Hatch to get their own bathroom if they can afford it, because it is nice to have your own bathroom. It just gives you a little bit of extra space, but they are decent. Like, I would say, so they're considered premium accommodation in Ireland, in Carlow. I would say that they're in line with maybe like standard Canadian student accommodation. Like, I know the student accommodation around Durham is really, really nice and new. This isn't as new or as nice, although I know there's talks of them doing some renovations, but it is good. Like, it is what you need, and anytime you need like anything, they're just an email away, and they usually get back to you in like a couple of days. So it's nice in that sense, and you know, like, instead of going into like a house share, you kind of know what you're getting, and you know kind of that it's legitimate. And so I definitely recommend it for any like Canadian coming over who's not had a chance to look at the apartments or anything before, I've also got a live video, which I don't mind linking in the chat after I'm done talking. And I just go through the my apartment. Now they're all a little bit different, but I just go through like my kitchen, my living room and stuff just to give people an idea. And in that live video, if you go to 1 minute and 2 seconds, that's when I start. So I'll link that in here, and hopefully if you guys are interested, then you guys can view that.
Thanks, Tanya. So, Katie, I hope that answers your question. But again, if you want to go offline and maybe when you've applied, I can put you in touch with Tanya and put her in touch with. And Kaylin, thanks for joining. She's got to run. Okay, so one of the most common questions I get asked, guys, is about recognition when you go back to Canada. So I don't know how well you can see it on the screen here, but there's a thing here called the National Framework of Qualifications, and it was designed to be a very simple way to explain to prospective students and employers a very easy way to understand their qualifications. Okay, so it's a fan diagram, 10 levels. Level 1 is kindergarten. Level 10 is a PhD. And what you can see there in the yellow line, there's a purple line, a yellow line, a red line. The yellow line are the qualifications that the IOTIs can offer. So from level 6 to level 10 we can offer. What generally a diploma is a level 6 from Ontario, which means you can go into level 7. An advanced diploma is level 7. You can go into level 8. You can't skip a level. So, but this is the reason why our qualifications are internationally recognized. And I mentioned earlier on we have 55,000 graduates, and the majority of those can be found working in companies outside of Ireland. So the evidence of that is on things like LinkedIn and just following up with our alumni. But I would certainly know anecdotally, talking to a lot of the Canadians who've returned, they've had no issue with recognition. For those of you who are looking at engineering, I know this becomes a huge issue for you in terms of POE, but a lot of our programs are badged by Engineers Ireland. Engineers Ireland are signatories of the Washington Accord, and the Washington Accord is I suppose, an agreement between a lot of developed nations about recognition of qualifications. So have no fears. Don't get overly hung up on that. We have a lot of Canadians. I think we have about 9 or 10 doing mechanical and civil engineering at the moment. Okay. So I'm going to skip the next slide. It's not really relevant. I've kind of covered it already. Okay. Become great. If you miss it, it's not the end of the world, but I think it sets you up for success. So in that week, you'll have cultural corners, you'll have tours of the campus, you'll have an opportunity to participate in Irish games, Irish culture. We do a day trip on one of the days, so you can go, for the last 3 years, we've taken students, you can go paintballing, you can go zip lining, or you can visit Kilkenny, which is a medieval city, about 30 minutes away from Carlow, with a huge castle in it. I generally say Kilkenny has been there for nearly 1,000 years. It'll always be there. So go paintballing, go ziplining, and enjoy that experience. But you know, some of the students fly in early and they say to me, "Look, I want to go and see Europe for a few days," and I'm like, "Go for it." So don't get too hung up on missing the induction week. Generally, in the first semester, there's not much of a break. Our graduation takes place in November. That's a quiet week, so that could be an opportunity for you to go home. We'll finish up generally the middle of December until the second week in January. The second semester is much more broken up, and particularly from now on. You'll have a 2-week break at Easter. Is it Easter break now, Tanya?
Easter break is on the 13th of April. So this year was kind of a little bit different. So it depends on where Easter falls. But this year we kind of had a long semester from like January to April. But then you get 2 weeks off in April, and then you kind of do your exams after.
So it's a very, very, very quick year. You can defer your entry. Okay, my boss doesn't like me saying that, but you can. Airport collection I've gone through. Accommodation is generally off campus, student apartments, ensuite Wi-Fi housing. There's no issue with students finding housing. So I see there's a student there from Okanagan. I was there before Christmas, so beautiful part of the world. So very very keen to see if you'll apply. And there is the once-off cost of the IRP card that we spoke about. The other thing, as I found in January when I was over there, just talking about the weather, we don't have the extreme of weather that you guys have in Canada. I went to the shop one day before I flew home, and I nearly froze to death. We never get minus 30, minus those kind of temperatures. The most it might go to is minus 4 in the middle of the night, but it's a different type of, very different climate to the one that you're used to back home. Nathan, just about Brexit, I wouldn't worry about it at all. With Brexit, it may have an impact on some domestic indigenous companies, but for the most part, it's actually proven to be a positive for us. Okay. Yeah. If you're going around with a t-shirt, Nathan, at minus 4, then send me a photograph. I'd love to see that. Lawrence, yeah, it does. It rains a lot in Ireland. There's no point getting away from that. I'm not a big softie. I'm just not used to it. Okay. I thought I was going to have my ears amputated at one stage. This is an aerial shot of the college, guys. It gives you a sense of what it looks like. The river beside us is the River Barrow, second longest river in Ireland. We're actually building a €15 million sports campus at the moment. So there is a medical centre on campus, okay? So if you're not feeling well, there's a nurse, Teresa. She's absolutely brilliant. She's lovely. If you're not feeling well, you can go to Teresa. There is a doctor's clinic that runs throughout the week. So if you require a doctor, if something ails you, it's €10 to see him. So it's subsidized. For me to see a doctor, it's about 50, 60 euros. So it is subsidized for you guys. There is an access office, which really and truly is not required for international students. There is a chaplaincy, a prayer room, all those kind of things. We probably have one of the coolest chaplains in the world, I would say. He's got long hair, doesn't wear the traditional priest garb, and curses a lot. So it's very unusual. We have a careers office, and I'm very passionate about explaining to students, use the careers office. When you're there, we have a brilliant person in there, Judy. Go in, spend time with her, learn how to do your CV, learn how to do cover letters. If your intention is to stay in Ireland, find out what companies are hiring, go to graduate fairs, but make use of that service. It's something I didn't do when I was in college, and I've regretted it to this day, because it took me a long time to understand what employers look for and what employers want. So that resource is there for you free. Use it. The Students' Union, because we have a Student Union body official elect, I'm going to let you talk about the Student Union, Tanya, and what they do for students.
Yeah, so basically the Student Union is here for you. We're here to basically listen to any of the needs that you have and to advocate for all students' rights. We also work a lot with the clubs and societies on campus, so it's a great way for you to get involved in like hill climbing or Zumba classes or swimming team or different sports. Football, which is Gaelic Athletics Association, it's like a Irish sport. They've got different things like that, and so we try to get students involved in the college life as well as advocating for your needs. And yeah, just basically it's a good way to kind of get involved in different volunteer activities or just to get involved in campus life in general. Yeah.
Yeah, hurling is like ice hockey, only more violent. So for any of you who wants to know what it is. Nathan, what are the rules about being late to class? You can be late for class if you want to, Nathan. You don't have to show up. It's not high school. But you know, if you're making this investment, try not to be late for class and try and be there. But missing the odd class here and there and being late the odd time is not the end of the world. Um, Testing, obviously, for an exam, exams are sacrosanct. You cannot be late for an exam. No way. Online testing, there may be some online tests that you'll take. We use Blackboard, that's our course management system. So you would upload all your assignments there. But that's a good question, Nathan. I'm not 100% sure if any programs do offer online testing. Mitchell, there are occasionally campus employment opportunities, but they're few and far between. I would have said near on impossible to get a job on campus, but one of our Canadian students has just got a job on campus. Kite just got a job there recently working in the sports office. So never say never, but it is difficult just to set that expectation. So the college itself, as you can see from this picture, it's a compact, modern campus. We've invested about 200 million euros in our infrastructure. And when our sports campus is completed, we're hoping to move on to build a 25 million euro science and engineering building. So a lot of investment has gone into the college. So you're getting access to a state-of-the-art university facility. Okay. So as Tanya's touched upon, there's about 60 clubs and societies in the college. And I would say it's critically important that if you do decide to come, that you get involved in some of them. Whatever your hobby is, whatever sport you're interested in, it's a great way to make friends, break down barriers, and see different parts of Ireland. So these pictures that I'm showing are just some of the trips that we organise for some of the international students. The one at the top is Glendalough, which is a prehistoric glacial valley, which became a religious site, but it's absolutely spectacular scenery. The one on the right is the Browns Hill Dolmen, which, if you're interested in these kind of things, it's the largest capstone in Europe, apparently. I don't know how they figure these things out, but it is a local tourist attraction. And then that's some of our international students. So the Hill Walking Club that Tanya alluded to, a lot of Canadians join that because it's a great way to see some of the most spectacular parts of Ireland. And there is some truly magnificent scenery in Ireland. So Tanya, Katie has a question there around phone plans. So I might let you go with that, and because that's a good question about phone plans and how they work. I think it's much cheaper than Canada. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go back to what Owen was saying about the walking club and stuff. Definitely get involved in stuff like that because like that's gonna make the college experience. It's not all about studying, it's about getting involved. I went down with the International Society to Wexford and that was great. The trips are all subsidized, so you shouldn't be expecting to pay more than 20 euro, and that includes your bus and your attractions and stuff. In terms of your phone plan, so what I did was I got a SIM card from Vodafone. There's a number of different carriers in Ireland. There's Tree, Vodafone, there's EI, and there's like some other different kind of carriers. My carrier with Vodafone, I pay 20 euro a month. I get 20 gigabytes of data. I get 100 minutes of local calling, and I get unlimited texting. Additionally, you can add for an additional 5 euros a month, you can add international calling, 100 minutes, and that includes calling to Canada. And I've done that before if I needed to call at home or wherever in Canada I needed to call my credit card company or whatever. I have that peace of mind that I can just add a 5 euro top up. It is like a prepaid thing, so I would recommend bringing over an unlocked phone, just like I've got my Samsung, and before I left Canada, I decided to get it unlocked. I brought it over with me, and then I was able to just go into Vodafone and buy my SIM card. And then each month you can top it up. So you can either top it up in the store or on the app or whatever. I'd recommend that because it is way cheaper and you're getting a lot of data and stuff on it. And also, like if you go up to Northern Ireland or you go anywhere else in Europe, you can use it in Europe as well. So like it's a great way to like navigate around and stuff. So that's what I'd recommend doing in terms of in terms of the phone plan. But yeah, I canceled my Canadian phone plan, and basically what I did was, I'm with Virgin in Canada, so I basically put $100 Canadian onto my phone. I got them to convert my plan to a prepaid and then put $100 Canadian onto my phone, and then that $100 is valid for 365 days. So you still can keep your phone number, and then once you go back home, then you can convert it back to a to a postpaid plan, and then basically you don't lose any money that way. But I know a couple other Canadians who are just paying like $5 a month to keep their phone number but not keep their plan, and that's kind of up to you, I guess, what you do.
Thanks, Tanya. That's great. So Lawrence just has a question here about whether there's a gym. There is, Lawrence, and I think it's in the region of €60 for the year. So to give you an idea of how cheap that is, I don't have it anymore, but my gym membership when I was there was about €45 a month. So €60 for the year. You have all the free weights and all the cardiovascular machines, treadmill, rowers, bikes, everything that you need is there. There isn't a swimming pool on campus, but there is local hotels where you can get swimming pools as well. And where Tanya lives, not that I recommend it, you can dip your toes in the river, but yeah, I'd prefer if you stayed out of that, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, there is a gymnasium there, so everything that you need. There's a bank on campus, there's a couple of shops, there's a couple of Starbucks, there's a subsidized canteen, so everything that you need to do well in the classroom and out of the classroom is on campus. As I joked to Tanya earlier on, the only thing we don't have is Tim Hortons. So if you need your Timmy fix, your Timbits, you might have to pack them in your suitcase. So guys, the last slide I kind of have here, I'm not going to dwell on it too much, but I think Sue is online here with us, or maybe it's Amelia. I think it's Sue though. So Sue and Amelia are kind of working in the office with Martin out on the road, and they will essentially do all the paperwork for you guys in terms of guiding you through the process. I put up in the previous slide that there's a deadline. For Canadian students, because you don't require a visa, there is no deadline. I did have 2 students from Durham, actually, Tanya, who applied in the last week in August and ended up coming to us. So, while that's cutting it very, very tight, it does show you the flexibility that's there. But ideally, hopefully you would have decided long way in advance whether you're coming or not. So I strongly encourage you to use Sue and Amelia at KOM, but all we essentially need are your transcripts and a copy of your ID, so your passport. That's all we really need. We don't need your high school results. We don't need a statement of purpose. We don't need completed transcripts because we know that most of you are still studying, and your offer will be conditional on your final result. So that in a nutshell is it. Look, the final point I want to make to you is this. I mentioned at the outset that this can be a fantastic experience for all students. And my experience with the Canadians has been really good. Last year, our Level 8 Marketing Student of the Year was a Canadian student. For those of you who are still on from Conestoga, it was one of the Conestoga students that got that award. The year before, our Level 7 Student of the Year was from Durham College, and I had the pleasure of awarding him his medal and his check out in Canada. So some of the students have performed really well, and most of them have. But the other thing I want to make a point about is that it's not going to suit everybody. And, you kind of have to, as much as you can, be 100% committed to the process. There are going to be low points when you come over. You are going to be homesick. You are going to miss your friends. But the world is a smaller place. So as long as you're embrace the opportunity in the right way, you'll have no problem. It's for me. There's 2 questions I ask students to ask themselves. 1, can I afford it? And if the answer to that is yes, the second question I tell you to ask yourself is, am I prepared to come over and take on the experience and all that comes with it, the good and the bad? And if the answer is yes to those two questions, you know, go with it. Go with it. Take that leap of faith, like Tanya's done, and see how you get on with it. So look, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's great to see the questions, great to see the engagement. I know some of you probably sat in the background watching the questions. I hope I've answered everything, but you'll see there on the PowerPoint slide, my email address is there. I try and make an effort to call students back. I prefer to do it that way, and talk to them and try and address any concerns they have. If you're not comfortable asking a question here, you know, send it by email. There's no such thing as a stupid question. I said that at the beginning and I say it now. You know, by all means, ask any question you want. And just before I leave, if anybody wants to ask a last minute question, there's another 1 or 2 minutes. But I just want to thank Tanya for joining us this evening. I think it's great to have her insight. She's a much more credible voice than I am. Tanya, is there anything else that you would add or say to any of the guys here?
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate being on this call today too. I know for myself, hearing another Canadian's voice and being able to ask questions like the phone plan or like the accommodation thing, I'd much rather do to another Canadian as well. So I appreciate the opportunity to be able to come out here and speak to you. I also would like to open the floor, and if anyone wants to speak to me, you can get Owen to send you my email, and I'd be glad to talk to anyone about my experience, or if you're doing HR, any business kind of program, about the research project or anything of that nature. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I thought that. Okay, guys, look, listen, thanks to Adam in KOM for arranging this. Thanks to, I don't know which of you is on, Sue or Amelia. Thanks for being there in the background and for answering some of the queries. Thanks again to Tanya. Thanks a million to you guys for participating, and hopefully we'll see you around campus next year. But my last piece of advice is get your applications in. Now is the time to do it, and hopefully this has been a worthwhile process and endeavor for you guys. All right.